Good morning, noon, and evening to any of our listeners. Hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome to Children of the Corn.
Good day to all our listeners, and thank you for tuning in. As we dive deeper into this rabbit hole, more and more gets uncovered. We got some good suggestions and insights from you guys, which we really appreciate. Not only is the story a wild ride, it really makes you question the morality of actions during a war. I started out quite skeptical towards Hendrik, but after the last episode, I have to say, I started doubting my harshness. Hendrik was involved in some sketchy business and he hurt my family, but he seemed to be in a tough situation.
Yes, exactly. The story of the power plant also adds a new dimension to the story. What exactly was it? What was he doing there? And who were involved? At this point, we still have some mystery figures in the story, and we would love to find out the whole plot. To bring in some new perspectives, joining us today is an art student, Xavier Monfort. Thank you for joining us today. You contacted us after reading the Gazette and having read the podcast, and it turned out that you have been working on a project where you researched paintings from the archive which depict war scenes. Am I right?
Hello. First of all, thanks for having me. And yes, that's right. I have been working on a project depicting scenes from the war around Groningen. What stood out to me was the story of the power plant that you guys discussed last time. I was talking with a friend of mine who is interested in war stories and also has done some research on the matter. He actually told me about you guys' podcast and the Gazette, and I was intrigued. One of the stories sounded similar to me. I have seen some paintings during my research that involved some sort of explosion at what seems to be a power plant.
This is so interesting. One of the biggest controversies about the story is the question whether people were actually at work at the time of the explosion, right? Which would make the intended heroic more questionable and dark. Sacrifices have to be made sometimes, but was this one really necessary?
It's really such a dark story, and thinking about the recklessness of the resistance makes it hard to stand for their choices.
Well, yes, the conclusion I have drawn is that the paintings were too detailed for them to just be creative expressions. The painter depicted something real. You can see this from the way they focused on certain details. When a painting is purely aesthetical, you focus maybe on the bigger picture, the color scheme, or an emotional expression. But some of the paintings almost look like real pictures. Nothing was glorified, just horrible, dark clouds of smoke raising up in the sky. This painter was trying to process what they had seen. This would certainly suggest that he was actually there when it happened, and that he might have been the sole survivor.
Then I do wonder if maybe he would have had more information on the whole situation. Why did we hear nothing from him, especially since he is so connected to the incident and probably saw it firsthand? Isn't it strange that we're only discussing these paintings now? There must be more information.
Well, there is actually surprisingly little information on these paintings. However, while researching, I did find a document in the archives that said that the painter was from the same town as the plant. So that could mean that the painter worked at the factory, which would explain the detailed depiction. They also seem to have a very good understanding of the area based on the other paintings.
Wow, that's really interesting. I bet if we could find more about this guy, we'd get more inside information about the victims.
Yeah, and another interesting fact is that he seemed to have painted a lot of the victims who got affected by the contaminated water. So there is definitely a strong connection. If you would like, I can try to find out more on the workers who were in the factory, and maybe it will help you find more information on what happened with Hendrik.
That would be great, really. I think we are getting closer to our answers. Maybe this quote can help you in your research. This is what I found in my great-grandmother's diary, and this has been written by a woman called Yakira. But after the chemical plant, I must lay low, for I was seen by this high-ranking Nazi officer, a real hunter, never forgets a face. And when we heard him that night, apparently he is still actively searching for me. Hendrik got away without the wrong people knowing about his involvement. But I need to do something. I want to do something. Tell tell these Germans to go back to where they came from. So it would seem they were both involved and there was some sort of connection to the resistance.
That is actually really good to keep in mind.
Well, thank you all so much for listening and for joining us today. And thank you, Xavier, for all this very useful information and good insights. Well, tune in next time and see you then. Goodbye, children of the corn.